our time for winners and losers. Campbell, do you want to start us off? Who were the biggest winners? Who impressed you the most this French Open? Who were the positives?
Well, for women's, there's a lot that impressed me a lot. So, but probably the person that's apart from Swiatek, I would say the person who impressed me the most was Nadia Podoroska, making it all the way to the semi-finals when she was just a qualifier and no one really knew who she was very impressive, I thought. And another one I thought was Trevisan. I think she was also a qualifier. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
sure, and she made it all the way to the semi quarterfinals until she met the Beast, who absolutely demolished her. But I thought the two qualifiers, I think Trevisan beat Burden 6-4, 6-4. Nadia beats Svitolina. I'm not sure which other seed she beat, but I think she beat some other seeds. But they both did very well and they had very hard matches, so it wasn't surprising us. I thought they were going to both lose like first round, but it was surprising for both of those people to win and make it that
yeah.
far.
I'll jump in there. I went similar to what I did last year. I picked a few collectives as well as individuals. Yeah. So one of the collectives I had was just qualifiers.
Yeah.
The qualifiers, there were some great performances. I think it was a big advantage to be a qualifier because you had 3 matches on the surface. Obviously, every clay court's different, and this year, normally there's a long gap after the Australian Open, and there's like a clay tournament or two every week. So most players getting a lot of clay practice going in to the French. But yeah, this season there wasn't too much run in, obviously because of the US. So I think it was quite an advantage for them to get 3 matches on the courts early, like the week before the tournament started, and I think that really showed. You had also you had those two, as Cam mentioned, made the quarters in the women's side. Well, Podoroska made the semis, and then on the men's side, Altmaier and Korda both made the fourth rounds. So, yeah, unusual to see qualifiers that deep in the tournament, but I think this year it definitely lended itself to the qualifiers, and yeah, very impressive from all 4 of those guys. Brownie, do you have
Well,
another winner?
the first winner I have is like yours, a general theme, and it's people born in this century, like people born 2000 or later. Um, I think in the past, um, I mean, in the US Open, I said a similar thing, but for people born in like the late 90s, like the next gen. And like, I guess these guys are also classified as next gen right now because they are young. But I think you could be kind of need a new name for it because if you're classifying Dominic Thiem, who's like 8 years older than Sinner, and they're like the same generation, can't really cough it. But on the women's side, obviously Sharon Tex born in 2001, and she won it. She demolished everyone and won the whole thing. I think it's pretty self-explanatory why she's a winner. On the men's side, we had Sinner, who's like leading the charge of the guys of that generation. Who made the quarterfinals and had some good wins. We've already talked about him. And then we have Gaston, who had a really good win against Wawrinka and made the fourth round, lost to Thiem. And then we have Korda as well, who made the fourth round as well.
Fernandez, I think
I
she
think
made
that's
the
just
third
three of them.
round. I think.
Is she? Oh, yeah. So in general, they're doing very well for themselves in the Grand Slams this early on to perform like that. Normally, they come out, the guys, and the young guys, and do some well in some random tournaments, climb their way up the rankings, and it takes them a long time to do any damage at the Grand Slams. So for 2 of them to make the fourth round and one to make the quarterfinals on the men's side was very surprising and very impressive. So I have more hope for that generation than I do for the next gen, who all aren't really. I mean, the later side of the next gen are, but not like the 25 to 30-year olds who are still classified as next gen for some reason. Yeah, so I was impressed by them. I think they're massive winners because none of them were really on the map either. They're at all other than Sinner, but the other two are pretty much outside the top 100. So, yeah.
Yeah, Cam, do you have any other winners or people who impressed you most, or
Well,
groups who you
I
think
have
did
I have
well?
Swiatek. Obviously, she won the Grand Slam, but also I was quite impressed that she got to the semi-finals of the women's doubles as well. The same time she was playing women's singles, so I thought it was kind of her tournament, really.
Yeah, 100%. She killed it. But yeah, I feel like we didn't even discuss the finals. But yeah, Swiatek, absolute legend. I'm kind of sad. I jumped on the bus in the for the US Open on her, and I didn't get around her for this one, which hurts because that would have been a nice little prediction. But yeah, when she was versing Vondrasova in the first round, I thought that could be an interesting match, but she'll probably lose there. But yeah, Sinner and Swiatek were kind of been they've been hovering around the 50 to 70 mark in the rankings, and we've been waiting for a big statement, but tournament from them, but probably didn't expect it in a big tournament like this. Probably would have expected it in like a 500 or a Masters or Premier 5 or whatever the women's tournaments are called. But yeah, that they were really impressive. And then Nadal's performance in the final,
Yeah.
like that, like early on, that was honestly the best tennis I think I've ever seen anyone play. He was smacking forehands like 165 kilometers an hour. It was just ridiculous. He was making Djokovic just basically try and smack winners because Djokovic knew as soon as he'd get into a rally with him, Nadal would just work him with the angles of his top spin, and he'd have no hope. So if it wasn't for that third set, the commentators were saying it's probably the greatest individual performance on clay ever. But that third set got a little bit closer, so that you probably can't give him that title just yet. But yeah, absolutely insane. But Brownie, I know he's not French, but do you think if he maybe wins like one more or something, do you think that arena should be named the Rafael Nadal Arena? Like
Genuinely, it's
it's his
ridiculous.
stadium. It's a joke.
He plays there every
Um,
single match, and his record at the French Open, like I think it's 100 wins or 101 wins and
yeah,
2 losses.
Yeah,
It's
he's only
just
lost twice.
it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever that's ever. It's just unheard of. Like, can't even imagine that ever happening. You could never predict such a thing. It's ridiculous.
yeah.
Oh, I also thought for men's quarter was actually pretty surprising, and he was pretty impressive. Obviously, he got whipped by Nadal, but I thought that he was pretty impressive to make it to round 4.
Yeah, I didn't know much about him. I've seen the name before. I know he has a famous dad and everything. They talked about that nonstop, but that's not why I know him. I've just seen his name around draws and stuff, but didn't know too much about him. And yeah, very impressive performance. Must have skyrocketed into the top 100
Surely.
of the rankings. My other winner, another collective, I've gone Italian tennis. So yes, their big names didn't really do that well. I think Seppi lost first round, Berrettini lost like third round or something. But Sinner made the quarterfinals. Cecchinato from qualifying made the third round. Brownie's man Sonego made the fourth round, and then on the women's side, the qualifier Trevisan made the quarterfinals. So absolutely dominant performance from them. Usually a
But
pretty dominant clay courting nation, but what were you going to say, Cam?
I was gonna say Paul Massetti.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's another like if I honestly reckon if he would made was in this tournament, he would have gone on a run as well. He was in great form. So yeah, the future of Italian tennis is bright because all five of those people we just mentioned are all under the age of like 26. They've been a bit lacking in the last 5 years of tennis or so until like Berrettini and Fognini hit form about 2 years ago, because there was a bit of a void there from like Seppi was never really that good, but he was always like ranked around 35th, 40. And then you had people like Vinci, Irani, Panetta on the women's side. But then since they've gone, there's not really been anyone in there. So it's nice to see some Italian representation again because they're obviously one of the biggest tennis nations going around. So I think they were one of the big winners as well.
Massetti's actually playing right now, and he just won a set against Cuevas.
Yeah, the tournaments just go straight on. Yeah, I don't know. Massetti is definitely one to watch out for. I think we might be talking about him in the 2021 French Open review after he's lifted the trainer. Jokes. After he's surprised us all. My final winner though is Sophia Kenin. As I mentioned in our predictions, me and Campbell, we were laughing about her a lot. We have a WTA fantasy league, me and Campbell, and is it your team or is the league called Kenin is trash? I don't know.
I think my
I think
player is called Cannon is trash.
Yeah, I think your account's called Canada's trash, but yeah, she definitely shocked us. She lost love and love to Azarenka in the warm up to this tournament, but she came out. She was very scrappy early on. Pretty much went to 3 sets against everyone, but she ultimately scrapped away to the final, and you can't really take that away from her. So
Yeah.
well done to Kenin, 2 Grand Slam finals out of 3, and that's pretty rare in women's tennis with
Yeah.
the unpredictability of it. So I think she's earned her spot in the top 10.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, I had her at my last winner, which Kenin came under as well, was Kenin and Tsitsipas. And I think both of them kind of did the same thing in this tournament of like affirm themselves in their current positions. Because both of them, I mean, I was shitting on Tsitsipas a lot before the tournament, and he very much, surprised me, being very consistent and making it all the way to the semi-finals. And then Kenin in the same boat, going all the way to the final. So in doing so, Tsitsipas was left behind a little bit the U.S. Open what we talked about after that tournament, and he did well to come back now and respond. And then Kenin in the same boat came out of nowhere and won the Australian Open, and no one really trusts her as a top 5 player, but she's kind of established that now. So I think that's a win for both Tsitsipas and Kenin to like affirm themselves. They can be trusted as consistent and reliable top 10 players for the future, because they're both only still like 22. So yeah, win for both of them.
Yeah, so that's it for the winners. A lot of positivity. Now, time for some negativity. I can't lie. It was a bit hard to
Yeah,
find the
I
losers
was
for me.
struggling.
Even though there was a lot of upsets, there weren't too many glaring losers from this tournament. For me, I'll start us off with Djokovic.
Yeah,
Like, I know it's a cheap blow, but I think after the last like 3 months he's had, it would have been nice to kind of change the wave of what's been happening to him in the last few months by beating Rafa at Roland Garros, but ultimately he got absolutely demolished. Lost a set 6-love, which would be pretty humiliating for someone as good as him. And ultimately, the main focus for those guys right now is they probably wouldn't admit it, but it's the Grand Slam totals. And Djokovic he falls one, but well, he's lost another opportunity to catch up to them, if you know what I mean. And Nadal's tied Federer now. So yeah, I just think I don't think there was too many standout losers, but for me, Djokovic was definitely someone who came out of this tournament not so great, because I think this could have been a chance for him to beat Rafa at Roland Garros, and he didn't take it. Cam, who disappointed you? Who do you think came out of this a loser?
I have a few for women.
Savage.
Kerber, she lost in the first round.
what happened to Kerber?
What is happening to Kerber? She's dead. Oh,
I forgot she
like,
existed.
Yeah, she lost to Juven like 6-3, 6-3 in the first round or something. I don't know.
Yeah, she won 2 Grand Slams. She just needs to go away.
And she lost first round. Oh no, not first round, but she lost in
She
her
must
first
be-
test in the US.
She must be not squatting enough in her forehand.
Yeah, I don't know, honestly. Maybe she's just going to turn into one of those battlers down at rank 300 who's won Grand Slams. I hope not, but because I love Kerber, but yeah, I don't know what's going on there. That was bizarre. But yeah, good shout, Cam.
Brady lost first round. She did very well in US Open, so I thought she was going to do well. Keys lost first round. She's also thought she was going to do well. She obviously didn't because she lost. Kontaveit lost first round. Azarenka lost second round. Pliskova again lost second round. You're
It really is all
rank.
losers in there.
Your rank.
You can't
I
really
think
pick
she's
one
ranked-
out. If you say one, you have to say all of them because they're all in the
Yeah.
same boat.
I don't know. She's definitely dropped ranking. I think she's now maybe 7th, 5th, 7th.
I don't know.
I think she's
I don't
7th
care about
now.
the women's rankings.
I think
They're
she's
so
7th
random.
now. So she used to be like 2nd. So she's definitely very trash now. The robot has finally been defeated. And I think, she lost second round in US. She lost second round in French. She just needs to get over her second rounds.
Yeah, so before you go, Brownie, I'll just touch on your Madison Keys point. I think she's a big loser. She's had a really bad year. She hasn't made it past the third round of any of the Grand Slams this year, and I think she's played one Masters and she lost in the second round. So um, Keys, she's kind of underperformed. She's almost like, this is very harsh, but I think this kind of comes with being an American female tennis player. But she's been pretty underwhelming her whole career almost. I think everyone's been waiting for that breakout, and she's
She
never
had
really
that.
got there.
She had that one breakout when Salone won. She made it to the grand final of the US Open.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
then,
think she made 2 semis in 1 year, but yeah, since then,
but I think that was really her only chance to win a Grand Slam. She just needs to give up.
call it quits early. But yeah, I think, I don't know what's happening with Keys. She's kind of just stagnated in her career. But to be honest, that kind of seems to be a common thing in the women, that when they're young, they bolt up the rankings and then they just get stuck and they're almost not as good as their rankings suggest they are. But yeah, disappointing from Keys, still waiting for that breakout, and it doesn't seem to be
And
coming anytime soon.
for men's, I would say Nishikori. I guess he's not really that good anymore. I mean, like, he made a grand final once in his life, and he used to be like top 20, maybe top 10, I think. And
Like
he
top
beat
5
He was like number 4 at one point.
he lost to
Travaglia, I think.
Travaglia, and I'm like, Nishikori, come on. Come on.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Disappointing from Nishikori. Is that your only man you've got?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
And
right. Brownie.
Shapovalov was pretty
Oh, yeah.
disappointing.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Or
Brownie, who have you got?
Shapovalov.
I was really struggling to find the losers because, I mean, lots of people were losers, but like all of their losers are like not that shocking. So it's like hard to, like, Zverev is a loser but like Sinner was in really good form. It's like, well, it kind of is justified. Now that was the case in a lot of them where like probably should have done better, but it's not like embarrassing. I said Djokovic because like I said my main ones are Djokovic and Halep. I mean, when you're number one in the world, you're allowed to lose matches, but you shouldn't be getting absolutely chopped by anyone. So, I mean, Djokovic is a bit unlucky. Obviously, Rafa's like in pretty fucked form, especially at the French Open. And in hindsight, Halep's win isn't that embarrassing because obviously, Swiatek just chopped everyone. But also, you're number one in the world on your favorite surface. You're the favorite to win the tournament. You just won the tournament before. Like, you probably shouldn't be losing 1 and 2 to anyone. So I feel like that's a bit of a loss for her. And I also had Azarenka. We already covered that. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people who are losers, but like not that. There's no one that comes out of this tournament terribly embarrassed. So compared to the US Open, I think there was more embarrassment that came out of that than this tournament. There's just so many upsets that you can't really pick on one person because it was all a bit crazy.
Yeah. Another winner I just thought of, Vondrasova, because she doesn't drop her ranking points. If this was a normal year, she would have plummeted to like 50th. She would have lost all those points. But yeah, I've got 2 more losers.
If the Barty Army was at the French Open, I said if the Barty Army was at the French Open, she'd smash.
Yeah. I've got 2 more losers, both fairly cheap. I don't think, as you guys have mentioned, I don't think there was too many big losers. But Serena Williams, just another Grand Slam goes by without her getting closer to the record. She did pull out in round 2, but her draw really opened up. It was a bit of a death draw when we saw it first. But Azarenka losing early, Batinsova losing early, all of a sudden it really opened up for her. And she would have basically, I think if she was didn't pull out, I think she would have pretty much waltzed through to a quarterfinal against Svitolina. But she pulled out from injury. So, yeah, another one goes begging for her. And then Medvedev.
Yeah.
I know, Brownie, you kind of predicted it, and he sucks on clay. But
Trash.
Really, it's just not good enough, is it?
No, you can't be that. Like, obviously, he's terrible on clay. Like, we've established this. But also, you're number 5 in the world. Like, you can't be losing every single match you play on a surface when you're the top 5 players in the world. I feel like that's very embarrassing. But anyway,
you got to be great on all surfaces.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just disappointing. And if like Diminor, he sucks on clay, but it's kind of excusable because he's like not top 20. But someone top 10, top 5, like Medvedev,
Yeah.
it's
Kind
pretty
of
rubbish.
shows he'll probably never be, even though he's still young, up and coming, he'll never be number 1 in the world. If you can't win a match on clay, you can't be world number 1.
No,
Yeah.
team will smash him.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to our conversation from our US Open chat about like kind of the dynamics of that next gen, I think Medvedev's almost fallen into last out of that pack now. Because I think Tsitsipas, he kind of made up for his bad US Open with his semi-final here, almost beating Djokovic. Team, obviously, great tournament at US. Zverev did well at the US. Shapovalov did well at the US. He had a bad French Open, but for me, Medvedev's now kind of falling behind those guys. And he needs to learn how to hit a ball with spin.
Yeah,
he's getting lucky. He's going to get lucky later on in the year with this whole ranking situation as well, because he won so many tournaments and made so many finals in Masters and stuff from August on, like after Wimbledon last year. So he's going to get very lucky.
Yeah, I hate those tournaments so much. It's like Sabalenka, like she always wins like the Chinese, the Chinese tournaments like Wuhan and stuff. It's like, oh my god,
everyone's so tired by that point. Like no one really cares anymore.
It's like Jack Sock.
Queensland, it's a miracle! Oh yeah! What about that one? Unbelievable! Balotelli, Aguero! Crowd cheers. Here's Siddle.